unless you're recording it, please don't have your cell phone on.
Okay, so we got a case study that was situational. Hypothetically, you are an RA or a CA, it's your third week of fall quarter. You're doing a really good job, you think. You're really close to a group of your students. You go to the rec center with them, you get meals with them all the time. You're developing personal relationships and you think everything's going great. And then a student that we're not as close with comes to you and says, I overheard your group of friends talking and apparently they are only trying to get close to you to take advantage of you and get on your good side so that you'll overlook their bad behavior, underage drinking, and anything else that would be frowned upon by an RA or CA. So our job in this case study is to hypothetically put ourselves in that situation and kind of assess what we need to do, how we need to react, who we need to talk to, what kind of confrontations we need to make. So we had a list of questions that revolve specifically around our hypothetical situation. So the first one is, how do you respond to this student in the moment? So we are going to share kind of our responses and then we're going to open it up to you guys, see kind of what feedback we can form as a group and kind of come up with a group collaborative response.
So in the moment, for like responding to the student, you have to handle the situation very carefully because it's a difficult situation where you have to consider their feelings. So I didn't know what to do, or I didn't initially know what to do, so I asked RAs about it. And one advice that I liked is you would ask the student how they're feeling in the situation. So like, because you want to be an equal and fair RA, you would have to consider or understand why they felt that way and try to reach a mutual understanding between you and this resident to fix the situation. So I begin with that question, why do you feel that way?
Okay, so our response is just to kind of consider where this person is coming from. Why are they coming to us with this problem? What is it doing for them? What kind of situation might they be in? And kind of assess, all right, how can we fix this? Because it's obviously a problem if one of our residents is coming to us with it. Second question is, how do you process this information? My first reaction to processing this information is to really remain objective. I think it's really important to kind of take a step back, evaluate what's going on, look back at your behavior for the past 3 weeks and think, okay, what have I done right and what have I done wrong? Let's kind of take this student's perspective into account and reevaluate. Am I doing as good a job as I thought I was? Am I being too specific? Am I not getting involved with all of the students equally? So you really do have to step back and think about it before you jump to any like harsh or irrational conclusions. Obviously, it can be a little bit insulting if you're feeling like you're being taken advantage of. You kind of feel like a fool. You kind of feel like, oh, well, these people don't actually like me. They're just trying to get something from me. So instead of taking it as a personal, qualm with either the first student or the group of students, you just kind of have to think, okay, well, what's going on that made this happen, and how can I be better to fix it, or how can I be better in general, even if you don't think it's a problem, how can I redistribute my attention to all of my residents? The next question is, what effects could your role as the advisor have on your community, both positive and negative? We had to kind of interpret this question a little bit more clearly to come up with a solid answer. We put some terms and conditions on it.
The most positive thing about being an advisor is that everybody looks up to you. You get to be the leader of the community for everybody to feel united underneath. So, in the community, you all have a common goal, which here is to receive an education and live in a safe place. So, being an advisor means being a leader for everybody to use each other and yourself as a resource to complete this goal. One negative aspect of being an advisor is exactly what this case case study is that people might try to take advantage of you as a friend in order to not have to follow the rules like everybody else.
Okay, then our last question for this case study before we open it up to everyone else is, how would you follow up with intentional interactions with the students with whom you have grown close?
So we kind of looked at this, and you've grown close to these students, you've built relationships, and you don't want to just kind of approach and be like, oh, like another resident came up, and I kind of just throw it in their face that this is what you heard. You want to have a little more kind of class, yeah, decency class about it. So we thought the best way to handle the situation was be to provide opportunities for the whole entire floor, to like more sober opportunities, because if their issue is they want to get one over on you to participate in underage drinking, then your intentional interactions would be kind of like find out their interests. What kind of things could you do to bring them to those events where you all are participating in activities that are better than underage drinking, and also to just overall have more sober activities that include everyone, not just have specific events directed towards one group, like the ones you're really close with, or have activities specified towards the ones you're not close with, but have activities that incorporate everyone, keep everyone in good environments, and keep everyone happy, hopefully.
Okay, so that's the end of the questions that we were presented. We want to open up the floor to you guys with these specific questions, and then we have our own list of questions that we kind of want to open up to discussion, kind of pull some ideas together and kind of see what we think as a group is the very best way to handle the situation. So we're going to go back to the list of questions. How do you respond to the student at the moment? Does anyone have a really good idea for that?
I really like what you guys said about objectivity, because I feel that anyway that's kind of the key here. That if this student comes to you, it's important to understand the student who's reporting this, understand their motives, and understand that there may be something, they may have an issue with this other group of people, that may be part of it. But also don't let any sort of emotional response dictate what you're going to actually do about this group of people that you've been hanging out with. You don't want to have the student tell you that and be like, oh, I feel really used, now I'm going to crack down on them super hard. That's not, I'd say continue to try and propagate this friendship that you have with them. But then if there is an issue, you have to hold, if they are drinking in the room, you got to write them up or something, show that you're still firm but friendly. So.
Awesome. So that's really cool, kind of reiterated what we said about remaining objective, and then adding the idea that that you kind of have to not treat these people differently.
Mm-hmm.
So don't punish these people for a rumor that you heard, and obviously there's a lot of leeway for misinterpretation or miscommunication, anything like that. So you really do have to remain objective and continue to treat these people well, continue to be friends with them. Just kind of be wary of what kind of consequences that can have if you are blindsided. So just keep your eyes open, but don't punish these people for a rumor that you heard from someone that you don't know their motives of. Okay, how do you process this information? Is anyone else? Yeah.
Not to restate what you guys did, but I really liked what you said about looking back on what you did personally the past couple weeks, because there are going to be people that you're going to build stronger connections with in your doors, but you have to remember that you're the leader and you have to include everyone. So instead of just blaming this person, what they're telling you, it's more you have to look back on what you're doing and stuff. So
Awesome.
I like that you guys thought that.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone have anything else to add to that one? Okay, seems like we're doing well at this point. What effects could your role as the advisor have in your community, both positive and negative? So this question was really tricky for us. We had to kind of define the question. So we think the positive and negative effects from your role as an advisor kind of contribute to how you're going to respond to this situation specifically. So what kind of actions are you going to take to this situation, and what kind of effects could that have in the future? So we're kind of playing chess here and thinking 2 steps ahead. We want to see, okay, what's the best action for us to take from this point, and what kind of effect is that going to have in the future? So we want kind of some hypothetical things like what could happen if we react how we're all kind of agreeing on. It seems like we're in pretty much agreeing on how to handle this situation. But we want to think, what are the good things that could come out of it and bad things? Anyone? Let's start with the good. Yeah.
I think that what the RA should do, and the RFE should do, is state or make it clear that we are kind of being professional about it, because it is our job to make sure that everybody is following the rules. So still have the same relationship we have with people who may be stronger, but at the same time give that make sure that message is clear that you're still having to do your job, that you're still making sure everybody is safe, and that's their best interest too. But it has a negative effect. I think that maybe people who were trying really hard to be friends with them, they probably wouldn't be as close. They might be like, maybe they are gonna finish this, or like, right. I think overall, everybody would understand it.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely, if you kind of have a firm hand and say, you know what, I'm not going to punish anyone, but I do need to kind of be on my guard, and I do need to behave like, you know, a professional. It is a job, first and foremost. And so doing that, behaving in that way, can really kind of establish you as, you know, an authority figure, which honestly is kind of what we need at this point, I think. I think 18-year-olds coming to college, being freshmen, you know, no rules from parents, no rules from anyone. You know, you can walk out of your classes and most of your professors don't care. You kind of get to do what you want. So sometimes it can be really comforting to just have someone looking over you saying, hey, I know that you can do what you want, but think about what you should be doing. I'm here. I can help. Let's kind of evaluate where you should be going instead of just doing what you want to do because you can. Let's kind of reevaluate what kind of actions you're taking. So providing that kind of a guidance system is really helpful for all of the residents to say, okay, I've got someone I can go to. So I think that's a really positive effect that could come out of this entire situation. Any strong negative effects? I know you touched on it. Anyone else? Yeah?
I just wanted to comment on like the role of an RA, and I think that as being that authority figure, it takes only one occurrence or one scenario where you could let your students, or you could let your residents think that you're not doing your job appropriately. So if any of your students catch an RA doing something inappropriate or catching them not following the guidelines that they should be enforcing, I think that's enough for that student to kind of just, for the rest of the quarter or for the rest of the year, to just think that, hey, the RA was chill about this, or the RA, he'll be lenient about that. And I think that that's like one of the worst nightmares an RA can have, is when the students, start questioning their authority over them. And so like I would say that that's a negative thing, just the fact that a student had that perspective of the RA, being more lenient towards other and being used by others. So I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say from that, but I just want to comment that you just can't let that happen to you even once. And I would like to say that even if that does happen, you have to go back and realize that you're not just an RA of a small group of students, or just one student who has that concern. You're responsible for many others. And as any other institution where you have complaints, you could go to them and complain about things, and of course they'll consider the complaint and try resolving the issue, but it's not like they'll change their entire objectives and stuff just because of one little issue. And so from that moment on, as an RA, I think the best thing to do is continue things, but have that as a warning and make sure that you're enforcing the rules the way it should be enforced in the first place.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna bounce over here.
One thing I did want to make a comment on is about as an RA, you have to kind of give your people that you're watching over, the students, you have to give them respect in order to get respect back. So in a situation like this, where if you don't treat them with respect, they're not going to give it back to you, because if you write them up and you kind of have this negative attitude towards them, then it's just going to reciprocate. But if you do it in a more, appropriate way, and if you actually kind of be respectful and say that I'm writing you up, but it doesn't mean that our friendship, we're not putting a damper on our relationship or anything like that. if you do that, then they're most likely going to be understanding, and they're not going to be completely negative towards you. And so I think just being an RA and being in that role model position requires a lot of respect for your students. And when it comes to a situation like this, I think that's a key point that everybody needs to kind of be aware of.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to bounce off that one. Actually, there's kind of an idea of thought in psychology that, especially with little kids, when you're kind of disciplining them, the way you want to do it so that they'll behave well all of the time instead of just when you're looking is to kind of get them to consider what is the real right action. So getting your students in trouble, the first reaction of the students is going to be to hide it from you. If you're rude about it or if you don't treat them respectfully, they're not going to want to stop doing what they're doing. They're going to want to not get in trouble. There's a difference between being pure discipline and also being a good role model. So treating your students with respect and saying, hey, I know that you messed up and I have to write you up for this, but let's think about, like, why are you doing this? What can we do to help? How can I help? What am I doing that's, lacking, that's not encouraging you to behave well? So being a good role model and being understanding and helpful is going to be a lot more effective than just, being rude and writing people up and saying, you're in trouble, you're in trouble. It's more about getting people to behave well even when we're not looking.
It's really like having the goal of reaching understanding between your resident and yourself, or your resident understanding yourself.
Okay, last.
There was
Is there one?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, like, it's really important to treat them like adults because they're at like such a crucial part where they're kind of figuring out, a lot of them will have jobs at their first year and they're trying to figure out like taxes and all this stuff, but they never taught you in high school, basically. And I think it's important in this scenario to kind of treat them like adults, because if you do treat them like children, they'll probably end up acting a little more like children.
Awesome.
Like they'll reflect your discipline style.
That's tying all of our points together. Perfect. Okay, anyone else on that point before we move on to the last question here? Okay. How would you follow up with intentional interactions with the students with whom you have grown close? Anyone? This one's a little tricky. It requires an actual answer. So this is the question that says, let's decide on an action and move forward with it.
I like food, so go out and have dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever.
Okay.
And,
So, other than food, what would you do at this meal? Perhaps talk to one of the groups of students, talk to both of the groups of students? Would you ignore it and fix your own behavior without confronting them?
I want to talk to two different groups at the same time, like almost as if, I can't think of the word, but as if, those meetings where you have to like come to consensus. Yeah, you don't want to have to like make both groups come into consensus, but like if I were to talk to a group, enlighten them about an issue that might be, pertain to them, but they don't just don't overwhelm them about it. You could have people can not ignore, but like forget things pretty easily. So at a dinner, you might talk a little bit about the issue that might have come in the past, but then just ask how other things are going, and so maybe they'll forget it or get over the entire issue entirely.
Awesome.
And that's also a good time to answer any of their concerns if they're still really bothered about it.
Right, and you can kind of like address what kind of situation they are in general that made them act this way, either to try to take advantage in the first place or be the one to kind of tell us what's happening with people that they're obviously not close with, in theory. Okay, so we have a list of our own questions, and just because it flows well, I'm going to jump to one of our middle ones. I want
for the next 2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes, okay. I want to know specifically from all of you, who would you confront? So the options that I've come up with are, would you talk to your group of students that you're close with? Would you say, hey, this is what I heard, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I want to address it and I want to let you know that I can't be lenient with any group of students. I would love to stay close with you and, you know, be friends, but I can't do that. Would you address the individual student, say, hey, what's going on with you? Kind of where's your mindset? How can I act better to include more residents, including yourself, and what would personally help you? Would you talk to both of those students, or would you not do anything? Would you not talk to anyone and just reevaluate on your own and say, okay, this is what I've done wrong, and this is what I need to be moving forward?
If this were me and I'm in this situation, I think that I would, when the student came to me and presented this issue, I would say to them that my first goal and the primary objective is to be fair. And like you guys said earlier, and like I thought earlier, that doesn't mean going out and being punitive toward this other group immediately, or vice versa. It doesn't mean just letting it go if they were drinking or something. But I think I would not directly talk to the group of friends that I had made immediately. I wouldn't go up to them and approach them and be like, hey, I heard this. I think that we should talk. I'm feeling you. I don't know if that's the place that I want to be in. I think it would be more of a conditional issue. So if something did happen and they were drinking in a room or something, in a situation where they should be written up, you have to write them up. That would be the message that you would send. Be nice about it, be kind about it, still reaffirm that you're friends. But I don't think it requires a separate instance where you have to go and talk to them prior to that.
Awesome. So does most everyone agree with that approach? Okay, great. So we'll move on. We'll do one more question and then we'll kind of shut it down.
One question you're kind of talking about, like, as an advisor, obviously you want to be friend, or did you?
Go ahead.
Do you want to kind of like, do you want to be that, like, which is better, to have that, like, close friendship, or to be, like, the friendly advisor? Like, while those seem really similar, it almost, I don't know if you really think about it, being the close friend and the friendly advisor, there's a difference. Is there a better way, so that way you're more open to students, but also have that line? Like where do you guys think the line is drawn, like, as an advisor, to where you're professional, but also you are open so people can come to you? Like, I don't know if that's just kind of funky, but like, where's the line drawn between close friend and friendly advisor, do you think?
Does anyone have like a personal experience or something like that?
Like, one thing with my RA, like, she's always there to, like, talk to us about, like, our problems, and, like, me and her are the same major, so she helps me with that kind of stuff, but she never really, like, comes to me with her problems, so I don't know if, like, your residents are the best people for you to, like, because that's how you get, like, the close friendship, like, pour your heart out to. So you, like, want to be someone for them to always come to, but I probably wouldn't go, like, pour my heart out to all my residents.
The way I see it is, I think that being a friendly advisor encompasses being a good friend, but being a good friend doesn't necessarily encompass being a friendly advisor. And that being said, I would say that it's more important to be a friendly advisor, and having that done, you could try becoming a better friend after that. But I think it would be more important to, be an advisor first, and then because you don't always necessarily. I mean, every leader doesn't have to be necessarily a friend, because being a friend isn't a required characteristic of a leader. So you can do your job even though people might not like you. Now, obviously, if you're a better friend and you do then it just means you do your job better. People like you for your job.
Do we have time for one more, or do we need to shut it down?
Let's go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
So, just so that I can make sure that I give grades to the correct people, can you go through your names again?
Yeah. I'm like,
Brandon.
Brandon, okay.
I'm Lexi.
Lexi, okay.
Allison.
Allison. Okay. This, okay. Okay. Those three other four I'm glad I asked. Alright. Thank you all so much.